Welcome to Sudbury Sports Unbiased, your source for stories in North American sports with Rick and Craig. Hello, sports fans. If you're looking for Rick, you won't find him today. He's under the weather. He called me. He said, I'm sick. So, that means we have to go to the bench. And every great team has bench strength. And I have great bench strength this week. I invited my good friend Leonard Eng onto the show. And Leonard, nice to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite.
Well, it was a pleasure, man. We were supposed to be a 3-man crew, but with Rick out of the way, we're down to the two of us, and that could be either interesting or disastrous. We'll see how it flies, but I think it'll be interesting, and I think it'll be good too. Let's start with today's action. At the start of today's games, the Toronto Blue Jays were tied for the third wildcard spot, albeit with 5 other teams. And as we know, the Blue Jays lost a tough game today, 4-2 to the Yankees in 10 innings. And lo and behold, we have a new leader in that centipede crawl for the third wild card in the American League. The Baltimore Orioles beat the Tampa Bay Rays. They are now the wild card leaders. Leonard, what do we make of this crazy wild card? Teams are jumping up and down. The lead is changing. What do we say about all this?
Well, first thing is I need to say that the Jays did score another run, so it was actually 4-3 instead of 4-2.
You're right.
So hey, they've been doing it tough over the past five or so games. I'm actually quite excited as a fan, even though today's outcome wasn't the desired finale. But the race for the next 30-something odd games is going to change several times. I guess it's like an Indy race.
Yeah, it's like an Indy race, and there's 5 cars trying to get through on a very narrow track. And I think there might be a few wipeouts and spills along the way.
That's
But an
right.
encouraging sign, Leonard, for the Blue Jays, a 5-2 homestand against the Red Sox and the Yankees. So would you say better days are ahead for the Blue Jays?
Yes, actually, I think the injection of the 2 young guys into the lineup, McAdoo and Bateman, has brought a lot more excitement to the mix. So, hey, all you could do is take a shot at it.
Certainly changed the dynamic, that's for certain. And the pitching has been good. So anybody who was complaining, well, what are we going to do? Kevin Gausman left down. Well, Jose Soriano has done a good job, and the bullpen has pitched well. Everyone seems to be rounding into shape. So tough stretch coming up for the Blue Jays, Leonard. They go to their graveyard, Tampa Bay, for 3 games.
Right.
I don't know what happens down there, but it's crazy down there. Leonard, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, let's just say the Trop has not been friendly to the Jays.
Extremely unfriendly, I would say. And, it seems that when they go down to the Trop, they invent new and torturous ways to lose, which is really difficult. And then you have to face the Yankees on the weekend. That's going to be a tough 6-game stretch. 3-3. You think that would be a good record for this 6-game stretch, Leonard?
I think that should be, I guess, the worst outcome that we can hope for is 3-3. Come out with a split and then try to make some inroads the last part of the month.
Yeah, and the schedule seems to get a little bit easier, but with these teams all about the same, you kind of wonder. It's sort of like, you're going around and around and around, and it's like the game we played when we were kids. You'd be at the birthday party and they'd play the music and you'd all go running around the chairs. And it's like, okay, who's going to be the one that's going to be off the chair at the end of the day when there's only 2 left?
Right.
That's how I sort of see it.
Correct. Musical chairs, for sure.
Now, there you go. Anyway, today we were going to do something special because it is the Blue Jays' 50th anniversary. And in honor of that, we're going to do our own unscientific poll, the 50 greatest players in the history of the Toronto Blue Jays. So for me to do that, Leonard, I'm going to share my screen.
I was very honored when you called me out of the blue and said, Leonard, in a celebration of the 50th year of the Jays, why don't you come up with your top 50 pitchers, managers, and hitters? And I thought, what? Are there actually 50 names I could come up with? So I actually started the assignment the night that you called me, and I started peppering this spreadsheet with some names. So hopefully you could tell me I'm out in left field on some of them.
I don't know about that, but I'm interested to know what your thought process was as you were putting names on the sheet. Were you using any specific criteria evaluate who you put in as opposed to who you would eliminate?
Well, as you know, that back in the 90s, I probably attended the most Blue Jay games of my life. Toronto Star had a $89 special for 81 games. And I went to actually 65 of them. So a lot of the names on this list came from just my memories as opposed to the stats. So the personal impact. So maybe it translated to the score sheet and all the stats, but I look at it as what do I remember or what were the names in my short lifetime as a Jays fan, and I just started putting them in onto the spreadsheet. So that was my thought process.
And did you find it difficult after the first 30 names? Because I certainly had that experience. First 30 were pretty easy, and the last 20, oh, this is not as easy as I thought.
Right. I ran into that wall. 50 years for a team that was not as, we'll call it, storied as some of these franchises out there, like the Yankees and so forth, and Boston. So, yes, I had a difficulty after about 30 names. You're absolutely right in adding more impact players to that list.
Because that was my experience, Leonard. I easily got through about 30, and all of a sudden, whoops.
Hmm.
It was like I was going down the ski slope without skis.
Right,
Very, very difficult. In
right.
any event, we've shared the screen here, and hopefully we can scroll through this. But I'm going to give you my list of pitchers, and I'm going to quickly run through the names if I possibly can. So Chris Bassett, Mark Burley, Dylan Cease, Jim Clancy, Roger Clemens, Marco Estrada, Kevin Gosman, Juan Guzman, Roy Halladay, Tom Henke, Pat Henkin, Jimmy Key, Roberto Osuna, Robbie Ray, Jordan Romano, Ricky Romero, Dave Stieb, Marcus Stroman, Dwayne Ward, and David Wells. So that's 20. And if you go to my list, Leonard, were there any surprises in my list that got your attention?
Osuna jumps out. That's the first name. The rest, if you look at my list, even Burley, I didn't have him on my list. I only came up with 10 pitchers because I kind of forgot some of the other
That's okay. We're going to
arms.
go through yours in a second.
Okay, but yes, Osuna. Actually, that's a very good name. I would have put it on my list had it come to mind. But that Strada, a very impactful pitcher as well. Romano, Markham native, very nice.
And
I
also
like,
had some
I like.
excellent years for the Jays as
Yes,
well.
yes, he did. Yes.
And then, now I must say, and I mentioned this to you off the air, there was one player that I thought in retrospect, I should have put on my list. I didn't. And the player that I was mentioning to you was, well, we'll call him an old timer because he pitched for the Jays in the mid 80s. And that's Doyle Alexander.
Hmm.
Doyle Alexander was a very impactful pitcher for the Blue Jays, probably should be on this list. And I can tell you that I would have put Alexander on the list. And as I looked at it, I would have taken Chris Bassett off my list.
Inter-
Reaction to that?
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Well, that's an interesting swap that you would take Bassett off the list and replace him. For me, I would have left him Bassett on the list and
Okay, so you
added.
you leave him on the list.
Yeah.
So my question is, out of these guys, who do you take off the list? So in other words, if you're adding Doyle Alexander, who comes off?
Yes,
Who leaves the island?
that's a very good question. I would probably take off Dylan Cease, and the reason is that in the grand scheme of the 50 years, Cease is still we'll call it a work in progress.
Yeah,
He
I
has been
agree.
so impactful. He got his 200th strikeout today, so that was amazing. I think he's the seventh pitcher, Jays pitcher, to amass 200 strikeouts in a season, and he's not done yet. So I would leave him off this list, and maybe next year, if we're talking about the top 50, I would add him.
Yeah, I
How's
can
that?
see that. The other thing I would say, the reason I put him on
Mhm,
is because Dylan Cease is very quickly working toward one of the best pitching seasons in the history of the franchise.
mhm. Agreed.
And today, no exception, had a terrific outing,
Mhm,
went into, I believe, the seventh inning. So, he could end up being Leonard a 7 wins above replacement player. And
mhm.
if he does, he will definitely be on that list. So
Yes,
I
I
can
agree.
see why you would tell me that. It would make sense to me that he would go off the list. Any other surprises other than perhaps Dylan Cease? Anybody that you would add, looking at my list? You mentioned AJ Burnett. Why would you think that AJ Burnett should be on that list?
Well, I think there are people that come into Toronto that sign up either by trade or they can't come up through the Buffalo route, or they're hired gun, like David Cohn.
Yes.
Uh, they made an impact, right, on the city, on the game, the excitement. So the stats night might not be there for them. It might be a short-term rental, but I think a lot of the fans have a short memory. When
Yes.
they go to the game, right? They go, "Oh, how many times has this guy blown the save?" So they ship out. We just shipped out our closer recently. Simply put, fans are harsh.
Yes.
What have you done for me lately?
Without a doubt. I've switched the screen here and I looked at your pitchers list. So what I'm going to have you do, you put 10 players on this list.
Yes.
Can you tell me why you included Jim Clancy, Roger Clemens, Juan Guzman, Roy Halladay, Tom Henke, Pat Hankin, Jimmy Key, Robbie Ray, Dave Steve, and Dwayne Ward? Now, some are pretty obvious, but for example, why did you include Jim Clancy? Because he was on my list as well.
I would say when the Jays started, they were a team that was pulled together, expansion team. Uh, it was great just having a lot of, we'll call it, impactful pitchers and hitters in the first 5 years of the Jays. And I think a lot of times in my head, when I was watching it as a younger person, some of these names just when they came to the mound, I thought, okay, there's a good chance of winning, and that's why many of these names, I thought, you know what, he's got a good arm, and I trust that we're going to have a good game. Whether they win or not, it was up to the bats because you can't win unless you score a run, right? And that's the job of the hitters. But as far as the flamethrowers, I stand by this list. If I was given 10 names, these are the names that I would say, okay, um, this is the names that jump out at me, and I would say they're on my top 10.
Yeah, I
So.
agree with you about Jim Clancy. And the reason I did, just to go way back,
Mhm.
Jim Clancy was an original Blue Jay draft pick. In other words, he came from the expansion draft. People forget this. And, I think that was a harbinger of the success that the Jays were going to have, that the scouting staff selected this guy and he repaid their faith with an outstanding career. Jim Clancy was a guy who doesn't immediately come to mind for many, but he and Dave Steve, for example, they were the two linchpins of the early Blue Jays rotation. And so that's why I think those guys should be on. I mean, Roger Clemens, pretty obvious, 2 years, two
Yes.
Cy Youngs. I mean, you can't get better than that. Juan Guzman, excellent career, I thought, for the Jays. Had a number of solid years. Roy Halladay, well, nothing more needs to be said about him. I think Tom Henke, the same. Leonard, he was the original closer. Drove people crazy. My mother would watch Tom Henke and she would say, "Oh, he makes me so nervous." But he got the job done.
Yes, he
What do
did.
you remember about Tom Henke? Tom Henke was a good talent.
Well, I just remembered that basically tall physique coming out to the mound. He looked at through those rim glasses, and that's why they call it a Terminator. When you looked into his eyes, you thought, oh, what type of pitch is he going to throw at me? And it was often hard and fast
Yes, it was, and effective
and
too
effective.
most
True.
of the time. Tom Henke, I think, definitely deserves to be on that list. Pat Hankin won a Cy Young Award.
Yes.
Robbie Ray, same thing.
Yes.
We've talked about Dave Steve and Dwayne Ward. He was the heir apparent to Tom
Mm.
Henke,
Yes. The
and he
setup
was
man.
the closer in the second World Championship year.
Yes.
So I had absolutely no issues with your selections on the pitching side. Let me just switch, Leonard, to another list,
Hmm.
and I'll go to my hitters list. And for the viewers, my hitters list is considerably shorter than Leonard's, and I'll have Leonard go through some of his selections, but I'm going to go to my list. The first name you see here is Robbie Alomar, and Robbie Alomar with an asterisk. And as people may remember, Roberto Alomar was a Hall of Fame player. He ran into some off the field problems, and the Blue Jays basically disassociated themselves from this player. They took his banner down from the level of excellence. And too bad. Roberto
Hmm.
Alomar was a fabulous talent and probably the best position player of the two world championship teams that the Blue Jays had. Let's go through my list. We're not going to spend a lot of time on a lot of these, but Jesse Barfield, there's another old time player, but
Hmm.
Leonard, I remember that early 80s outfield. Bell,
Yes.
Mosby, and Barfield.
That's right.
That put the Blue Jays on the map, didn't it?
Right. It sure did. It's
And
yeah, runs saved. I mean, they tracked down a lot of the balls and kept the starting pitcher in the game.
he
So
certainly did. And he was a good hitter as well.
yes.
Great throwing arm. Jose Bautista, nothing to be said there. Bo Bichette, yes, because Bo Bichette, even though he left Toronto, Bo Bichette had some excellent offensive years, Leonard, for the Blue Jays. I think you would agree with that.
Agreed.
Joe Carter, I think we know why. Carlos Delgado. To me, Delgado was the best power hitter the Jays ever developed. This guy, I think he could eventually be a Hall of Famer. And it's too bad he didn't spend more time in Toronto. This was a guy I think that was made for the ballpark.
Right.
So
I
go ahead.
remember Carlos. I was at a game where he hit 3 home runs.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I think there was four.
Eh, yeah. Oh, actually, right. You're
Yeah, it
right.
was
He was
against
right.
Tampa Bay. They showed it on the Blue Jays documentary. 4 home runs in one game. Now that is something. So yes, you're entirely correct. Donaldson, yep, I think we know about him. Edwin Encarnacion, the running mate to Bautista. Tony Fernandez, great player.
Hmm.
A very underappreciated talent. You didn't realize how good Tony Fernandez was until he left. And then all of a sudden, Who are those guys playing shortstop?
Yeah, I believe if my mind serves me correct, he joined the Jays for the second World Series. I think it was towards the end.
He did,
Yes.
and
Okay.
he was a big reason why they won that season. No, Tony Fernandez, terrific talent.
Yes.
Here's an old time name, Damaso Garcia. Now, there's another guy early in the franchise, but Leonard, he was an important player for the Blue Jays.
Absolutely. I also got to meet him at Gretzky Sports.
Oh, there you go. And the thing is, Damaso Garcia was an underappreciated talent. What people forget is that Damaso Garcia was a two-time All-Star, and that was as the team was coming up. So there's a guy I think who definitely deserved his flowers. Sean Green, I think we know about him.
Yes.
He won a Silver Slugger, excellent outfielder. Alfredo Griffin, there's a name from way, way back.
Way back.
We both put him on our list. Why did you put Alfredo Griffin on your list, Leonard?
It's another player that I, in my mind, thought he loved Toronto, played hard, got on base. A lot of times, uh, it's the impact that they had on the team and the good feelings I had in my heart and mind. So that I added him to my list.
Yeah, I think he's worthy of that. He wasn't a fantastic hitter, but I remember him a good base runner, excellent defender, and he was a very important guy in the younger days of the Blue Jays franchise. Vlad Guerrero, I don't think we need to talk too much about him. Teoscar Hernandez made my list.
Mhm.
My thought, Leonard, and I'd like your comments, is Teoscar Hernandez disrespected for his career in Toronto?
If you continue to follow him on his journey post Toronto, I still feel that he had uh, plenty to give in the tank, and I was kind of disappointed that Blue Jays management decided not to bring him back because you can see that post leaving Toronto, he's had a couple of good years, and he's still continuing to produce.
And the bottom line is this guy has also added some World Series rings.
Mhm.
And, when the Dodgers want you, that tells you something. And Teoscar's had a nice career. I think he is disrespected. I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves. Aaron Hill, there's a guy that when you were watching the Blue Jays, you watched him
Yes.
much more than I did. But would you agree with me that Aaron Hill was an underappreciated talent?
I would say yes. Aaron, he's not the only person that has left Toronto, and the position that he played was underappreciated until the replacement came in. He's like, "Oh boy, what happened to so and so?" And so, yeah, in this case, I was surprised when I saw his name on your list, but now that I see it there, I thought, hey, yes, it's a name that I could build a case to say, yeah, he should be on even on my list.
He is on your list. I'll let the audience know. But, Aaron Hill did win a Silver Slugger. So he was
True.
a good defensive second baseman, but I think a very good offensive talent, Leonard,
Mm,
that
yes.
doesn't get the respect perhaps that he deserves. Alejandro Kirk, a modern day Jay. I think he's building himself quite a career. And then we had Russell Martin. I know Rick isn't here tonight, but one of the first names he mentioned when he looked at our list, Russell Martin. I love Russell Martin. Leonard, what did you love about Russell Martin? Because there was a lot
Well,
to love.
yes. Well, number one, Canadian, right? You can't say anything bad about any Canadian that gets a chance to play in a sport that is dominated by American teams. So, uh, he made his impact. He wore his love for the game on his sleeve, and anytime that he's on an interview, being interviewed, you could see his passion, and he actually played well into his 30s. I forget what how old he was when he retired. I don't have the stats in front of me.
He did play well into his 30s, and I also would note he was very effective.
Yes.
Fred McGriff, the crime dog, one of my favorites.
Yes,
I don't think we need to say more about him. And of course, Paul Molitor doesn't need any introduction, but he was a huge piece on the second World Championship team, a Hall of Famer. And I think he was a catalyst to that second World Series.
I agree. I agree.
Lloyd Mosby, we talked about him with Bell and Barfield.
Shaker.
Shaker, yes, the
Yeah,
Shaker. And he had a way of definitely shaking things up. John Olerud. John Olerud is not a guy that immediately comes to mind for many, but this guy was a superb hitter, Leonard. One of the best hitters I've ever seen, and he had great on base skills.
that's right. Just quiet and unassuming. That's he was a man of little words, from what I
Yes,
recall.
but he spoke volumes in the batter's box.
Yes, he did.
I added Kevin Pillar to my list. And after I did that, I regretted making that choice. Kevin Pillar was a very good player, but I'm going to go to your list in a second. I'm going to say to you, the audience, in retrospect, he would not be on the top 50 list. Alex Rios. This was a guy that you put on your list.
Yes.
What put Alex Rios, Leonard, in the top 50 for you?
Well, as far as impact players, he had a lot of big games that I could remember down at the stadium when he will call it the bottom of the ninth inning or with men in scoring positions that he would drive in the run. As somewhat like Jimenez today, where you're thinking, okay, you got the right batter up there. Let's just put it in play and see what happens. So, yeah, he created a lot of excitement watching him bat and out in the field as well. So,
The Hall of Famer, as it turned out, played a couple of years in
Mhm.
Toronto. I
Yes,
added him to the list, Scott Rowland. I will say, though, in retrospect, I regretted making that choice. And I'm going to go to your list because there's a couple of other third basemen that I omitted that Leonard, my good friend, didn't omit. And we're going to talk about that. George Springer, he is the man as far as I'm concerned. He was a big piece last season. He's had a couple of good years with the Jays, some average years, but I think he is worthy of top 50. What do you think?
I agree. He's given his heart for Toronto. Actually, I thought he was going to get traded, moved this year, but the Jays decided to keep him. When they originally signed him, there was a lot of fanfare about that signing, and I think he's paid dividends for the team, even for just his attitude, is just being part of the clubhouse. I think he's brought fun to the clubhouse as well as discipline.
And a lot of performance on the field.
Yes, absolutely.
As much as I sometimes get annoyed by George Springer, I can tell you this guy is a consummate professional. And I think that's one of the big qualities he brought to the team. And
Hmm.
I think that's why the Jays signed him. And I don't think the Jays front office has too many regrets about the move. A guy that you saw quite extensively, Shannon Stewart.
Yes.
Shannon Stewart, a very underappreciated talent. He was on your list. Why was Shannon Stewart included on your list?
Shannon Stewart, I don't know, he spoke volumes as far as just a person that would show up every day and just play the game. And you could see that he actually uh, um, just loved being on the field. For me, even in the interviews that they did post game, where he, was the person that drove in the runs, it was a guy that I thought, hey, you know what? The guy seems like a nice guy. He comes across as a nice person, but also a great player on the field, a great teammate, and gelled together with all the players that were on the team for that year. So what can I say?
Yeah, I agree
I
with
like
you.
them.
Another guy who was on your list, another old time Jay, Willie Upshaw.
Willie,
What did you
Willie.
see in Willie Upshaw that put him on your list?
Well, that another impactful player that I got to see when I was much younger, attending all the games. I thought Willie. came across as a likable person as well. On the field, he basically was, turning plays, and his bat was good. You have one or two, maybe three good players on the team, and then you have to backfill the rest of the order from 4 to 9 with so-called average players. And Willie would be on my list of the 4 to 9 in the
Yes,
batting order.
yes, but he was a very impactful player. And I want to make a point that a lot of the people in the audience may not remember, but you and I do because we're young guys. When the Blue Jays played at Exhibition
Mhm.
Stadium was an excellent hitter's park. And I think that players like Willie Upshaw benefited from playing in that playing environment. Only three more on my list. Vernon Wells, I think that's pretty obvious. Devon White. Now, Devon White wasn't a fantastic hitter, but Leonard, his defense, what could you say about Devon White's defense?
Well, Devo was patrolling the outfield, and I'll tell you, when he was in stride to track down a ball, it was almost like a thoroughbred horse just running across the field to track down the ball. And some of these amazing fly balls, he'd go over the height of the outfield fence and bring it back in. So I just found it was amazing, amazing center fielder.
It was like poetry in motion,
Hmm.
actually. So that's why Devon White made my list. And the last one on my list was Ernie Witt. Now, some people may say, well, Ernie Witt, why is he on your list? He doesn't seem to me to be a top 50 Jays in history. But you look at Ernie Witt's career. He had a number of very solid years with the Jays, and people forgotten, and I had to look it up to find out. Ernie Witt was a two-time All-Star. This guy was a valuable player and a key guy on the Blue Jays team. Let me turn to your list, Leonard, because as I said to the audience, you had considerably more hitters than I did. And I have your list on in front of me now. Bob Baylor. There's a name from way, way, way
Really
back.
bad. Yes, yes,
Another
yes,
Blue Jays expansion pick. Why
yes.
did Bob Baylor make your list?
Well, from my point of view, back in the early days of the Jays, there was a lot of excitement going to games at Exhibition Stadium outdoors. Uh, I've been there where the weather was horrible. The weather was, the sun was blasting down on your head, all sorts of wind conditions. But there are some of the old time players that I always remember. It's like, wow, they had a good career with the Jays, and I figured, hey, 50 players. There's not a lot of players that would come off the top of my head to add to my list, but this was one of the names that kind of like, hey, why not? I figured that he should be on my list.
You could make a very solid case for Bob Baylor. I looked him up in baseball reference. He had two or three really solid years for the Blue Jays. And to me, he was the team's first big star, if I can put it that way. And so I can appreciate why you did put Bob Baylor on there, and good work by you. Um, let's go down through your list. I'm not going to
Sure.
repeat because obviously we have a few repeaters.
Right.
Let's talk about Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman, a good player. Why was he on your top 50 list? He
Well,
wasn't
I
on
think.
mine, by the way, audience. So,
Mm,
Leonard,
yeah.
why was Matt Chapman on your list?
Well, the reason why I put him on the list is there are some key players that were patrolling the hot corner, and all the good uh, memories I had of good third baseman. He was one of the ones I would consider at the top of his game as far as prevention.
Well, he was an excellent and still is an excellent defensive third baseman. The other thing that I noted when thought about your choice,
Mhm.
I looked at his hitting stats. He was also a pretty solid hitter and still is. And I'll give you a little bit of tea for the audience. After I looked at Leonard's list and I looked up Matt Chapman, I would have taken Scott Rowland off my list and I would have added Matt Chapman to my list. So
Wow.
again, good work by Leonard and good choice there. Dave Collins, there's a name from the mid 80s. Very good player. Why was Dave Collins on your list?
Uh, his name started with C.
Okay, that's a good reason. As good as
um,
any. But why did you pick Dave Collins?
another person that I think names that jump out of out of my head I thought, okay, you know what? I remember a lot of the, excitement when I was going to the ballpark, and some of the names you retain, some of the names you go, oh no, forget it. I'm glad. I looked at some of his stats as well, and I thought, okay, he's worthy for my list.
Yeah, I think you could make a case for him. Dave Collins played in the mid 80s, and that's when the Blue Jays really had a speed team. And Dave Collins, they called him the Rapid City Rabbit. And this guy was a terrific player and he had electric speed. So, yes, I could see where you could make that choice. And again, good work by you. Let's go down your list a little bit. Jose Canseco. Now, that one,
Mm.
Leonard, I have to tell you, it raised my eyebrows. But why was Jose Canseco on your list?
Well, I remember the days when Jose used to play for the A's and how intimidating he looked. And when he came to the Jays, I thought, yeah, he's still got that intimidation factor where when he stands at the plate, he's a big man. And whenever he put wood on the ball, it had a chance to go out, right, out of the stadium. So,
Ball traveled when Jose was at the plate. You're right. He was extremely intimidating. And people don't realize, Leonard, the one year he was here, Jose Canseco did win a Silver Slugger as the best designated hitter. So I could actually see where Jose Canseco could be on a list. And I think for one year, he was as dominant an offensive player as any of the Jays in their history. So again, good work by you.
you're making me look too smart.
Well, you are smart. That's why you're here. Mark Seidel gives me the line all the time. Well, I'm not that smart. Well, no, Mark is smart. And now you're telling me, well, you're making me look smart. But I'll
Thank
let you
you.
know a little secret, audience. People that were born and raised in Espinal, Ontario, a lot of us are a little smarter than we let on, quite frankly. Kelly
Thank you.
Gruber, another name on your list. Why
Yes.
did Kelly Gruber make the list?
I just loved. I remember watching Kelly as a kid. The other thing I shared with you prior to the recording was I have actually a signed ball with Kelly Gruber's name on it. It's faded because it was in pen, but I still have it. That's why he made my list. He
Oh,
signed my ball.
you know what he did, audience? He went around, looked through his office, and he went, maybe I should check these baseballs.
Yes,
Kelly Gruber. Oh, yeah, my assignment is to put the 50 greatest players in Blue Jays
that's
history.
right. He
Guy
made my
needs to be
list.
here.
Yes.
Oh, it was a good pick.
But
Kelly
he
Gruber.
also had, if sorry to interrupt, but he also had a meme. His hair was like Dylan Cease today when he's under the cap. I remember it kept on going like this every time he ran.
Oh, yeah.
So
No. Kelly had blonde, flowing locks.
yes,
But beyond the good looks and all of that, Kelly Gruber had 3 or 4 pretty solid seasons with the Jays. He was a solid player and a big contributor to the first World Series championship. Uh, Rance Mulliniks, going way back to the mid 80s,
way back.
part of the Mullinorg platoon between Rance Mulliniks and Garth Orge. Why did you pick
Yeah.
Rance Mulliniks?
Well, I was coming down to the short strokes as far as more names, coming up with additional names for my list. So I decided to pepper the name there and then decide whether they deserve to stay on the list. And when I came up with less than 50, I that's why he stayed on my list, because I ran out of names. Literally, I was starting to shooting, basically pigeons. I came up empty most of the time.
Pigeon shooting.
Yes, yes.
Well, no, Rance Mulliniks. And I want to make the comment also about Kelly Gruber. I looked at their numbers. Kelly Gruber had 3 very solid seasons, and I would have put him on my top 50 list. Again, good work by you. And the same thing goes for Rance Mulliniks.
Hmm,
Rance Mulliniks is not a name, Leonard, that most people would
most people.
go, yeah, he deserves to be in the top 50. Rance Mulliniks had a long career with the Jays, extremely productive. He took advantage of the dimensions of Exhibition Stadium, but he was also a solid player. And Rance Mulliniks actually should have been on my top 50 list. So
Mm,
again, good work by you. Let's
just
go through just a couple more here. Lyle Overbay. That was an interesting one. And I have a comment for you once you tell me why Lyle Overbay should be on your list.
well, I struggled with this one, but after, basically 5 seconds of thinking, why not? He was impactful for Toronto. He ended up being shipped out after a incident. Um, but you know what? Deserves to be on my list. I found his play exciting.
Okay.
I like the guy
No,
when he was
I can
playing in the
appreciate
field.
that. The only comment I had with Lyle Overbay, Lyle Overbay was a good player. There's no doubt about that. But Leonard, the Blue Jays have been blessed with a lot of great first basemen. And
Hmm.
you can go way back almost to the beginning. Upshaw, Delgado, and
Hmm.
you can just go through the list. This team has had tremendous first basemen,
Yes.
Encarnacion, and Lyle Overbay, probably on some other team, I would have gone, yeah, he needs to be there. But I think the reason I didn't have him on my list was there's so much competition for first base time with the Jays. The people that he's running against were terrific talents. And that's not
Right.
a disrespect of Lyle Overbay, just the fact that, the competition at that particular position, extremely fierce.
Hmm.
And one more name
Good point.
I'm going to end with Ed Sprague.
Yes.
Why was Ed Sprague on your list?
Another guy that played the hot corner. I figured, hey, good. I had good memories of Ed. I believe his numbers also plead the case for me putting him on my list.
Yeah, he had some good numbers. He was solid. Hit a big home run in the 1992 World Series also.
Hmm.
I could see why you could put him on your list. But Leonard, I wanted to say this. Now, I kidded you quite a bit about this, and we talked about this during the week, but I want to thank you for doing a great job, because what I asked you to do was not simple. It's not like, can you please ride a bike down the block in your neighborhood? I asked you to put together a list, and I told you you'd be subject to public scrutiny. I think you did a really good job, and I wanted to commend you for that. You deserve kudos. It was a tough job, and you did it really well.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Craig, because I'm one of these students uh, back in school. We were given an assignment, you would say, "Oh, this is going to be horrible. Let me start it out right away," because even if I'm given a week, I think I'm going to burn up that week not getting anything done. So this assignment, I literally started it within an hour of you asking. It was already late. I was pounding the keyboard, adding the names, going through in my own mind who deserves to be on the list. But I actually only made one revision. after that, and that was to the manager's list.
Yeah, and
But
we're going to go through that to end our segment here. So
yeah,
just give me a moment to again go to my screen, and we're now going to look at the managers. So I'll do yours first, and your managers were Bobby Cox, Cito Gaston, and John Gibbons. So Bobby Cox is no longer with us. He died this year. Cito Gaston still around, and John Gibbons still around and working in Major League Baseball. In
okay.
other words, if we were going to do a ranking 1 through 3, who would be number one? Who would be number two? Who would be number three?
Well, by virtue of winning 2 World Series and steering the 2 different, dynamic teams to the Golden Cup, I would say Cito number 1 for sure. I mean, in the world of professional sports, they only remember who won. They don't necessarily remember the runner-up.
You are
So
absolutely correct.
Cito number 1. I would put actually Bobby number 2 as one of the building blocks in the early days. Um, just a lot of experience when they hired him, and he put in good years with the Jays. Made a lot of good moves, tough decisions. I think he also has the record to back it up as well, win losses. John Gibbons, uh, Gibby. I tell you that it was hard to decide whether Gibby or John Schneider, but I put Gibby there because the era for John Schneider isn't over yet. He did bring us so close to the World Series last year, but Gibby had a lot of heart, and I liken him to a farmer. You know, telling a farmer, "Oh, okay, I want you to manage a team." So he reminded me of essentially a farm boy, for lack of a better term. Just the way he talked to people, he treated people, just down to earth.
Yeah, that's a great point. I totally agree with that. John Gibbons is one of these guys, you hear him, oh, shucks, I'm just a country boy from Texas. But somehow that guy, he has a way of getting to people, and he has a way of motivating people. So I do appreciate those comments. I see him the same way as you do. And yeah, he had an excellent tenure. People don't realize John Gibbons didn't always have the best team, but he
Mhm.
got a lot out of his talent. And I certainly appreciated that. Let me go to my list to end off here on the manager side. It's slightly different. Bobby Cox, Cito Gaston, and I put in John Schneider. Now, I'm going to make a comment about Bobby Cox because Bobby Cox was very early in the Blue Jays' life. But I think that Bobby Cox, I think it's very close between him and Cito Gaston for the best Blue Jays manager ever. And here's why. When Bobby Cox took over the Jays, they were a very young team. So he had to develop guys like Bell, Mosby, Barfield, Upshaw, Witt. And he basically took a team that was nowhere and brought it up to a winning standard. And it took quite a while for him to do that. When Cito Gaston came on the scene, the Blue Jays were already well established. They were a winning team. They had a winning culture. Now, I agree with you entirely. You cannot ignore 2 World Series. And no doubt, he is the number one manager in my mind on the Jays of all time. But I think it's very close between Cito and Bobby Cox. And, the proof is in the pudding. Bobby Cox is in the Hall of Fame. So, Bobby Cox, a tremendous manager. And I think we were very fortunate to have Bobby Cox as the manager of the Blue Jays. Johnny Schneider, similar to you, he brought them to the 7th game of the World Series. Schneider's been up and down in terms of his performances. had some good years, had some not so good years. But, I think the World Series performance just put him slightly ahead of John Gibbons. And I think that John Schneider, by a hair, in the number 3 spot. But I must say, with all due respect to John Schneider, he does not come anywhere close to Bobby Cox or to Cito Gaston.
Mhm.
So that's our
Okay.
take on the managers. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed our look at the 50 greatest players in Blue Jays history. Difficult assignment. Leonard did a great job. And if you like what you're hearing, hit like and subscribe. Tell others. Leonard, thank you for stepping in this week. I appreciate you. And hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Len.